Insurance isn't one size fits all. That's why drivers have enjoyed Progressive's Name Your Price tool for years now. With the Name Your Price tool, you tell them what you want to pay, and they'll show you options that fit your budget. So whether you're picking out your first policy or just looking for something that works better for you and your family, they make it easy to see your options. Visit Progressive.com. Find a rate that works for you with the Name Your Price tool. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
K-pop demon hunters Saja Boy's breakfast meal and Huntrix meal have just dropped at McDonald's. They're calling this a battle for the fans. What do you say to that, Rumi?
It's not a battle. So glad the Saja Boys could take breakfast and give our meal the rest of the day.
It is an honor to share.
No, it's our honor.
It is our larger honor.
No, really. Stop.
You can really feel the respect in this battle. Pick a meal to pick a side.
At participating McDonald's while supplies last.
I love how we come to the microphone and Doug reminds me it's Monday. It's Monday. Oh, thank you. As if I didn't know that yesterday was Sunday.
Well, I mean, your life is one big party. It may just all blur together for you. I don't know.
Yeah, it's just I pinch myself as I skip my way to the microphone every day. What random day is it? But you know what we do on Monday? I'm glad you told me, because we raise a mug on a Monday. So come on, no matter where you are, what you're doing, raise that mug. If you don't have a mug, raise your face. That's a mug. On behalf of the men and women making podcast in Mom's Basement and the men and women at Navy Federal Credit Union, here's to our troops that kept us safe all weekend and are going to keep us safe all week.
Cheers.
Let's go stack some Benjamins, shall we?
Thanks, everybody.
Can you fly this plane and land it?
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Live from Joe's mom's basement, it's the Stacking Benjamin Show. I'm Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug, and we're all trying to build our stack. But is that all there is? Whoever dies with the most toys wins? I mean, on today's show, we'll talk to a man who's been financially independent for 10 years and is still grappling with these questions. He's the host of the School of Financial Freedom podcast, Douglas Tsoi. In our headlines, we'll dissect the trial of a money manager who's accused of defrauding investors. What went wrong, and how can you protect yourself? Plus, I'll share some fast trivia. And now, two guys who raced here today on their cute little scooters to bring you the best personal finance advice around. It's Joe and G.
Hey, everybody.
Meep, meep.
Ching, ching. Welcome to the My Bike is Faster Than Your Bike podcast. I am 13-year-old Joe Saul-Sehy, and across the card table from me, celebrating yet another Monday. Actually, what's funny is this is the last Monday of this 8-week series. Mr. OG, you get a week off next week, OG.
It's the last week of this semester.
About
half the year's over. I like the Wile E. Coyote version where he just like looks at, like the one where he dresses like the Roadrunner, and then he just goes, because he doesn't make any sound, but his thought bubble just says meep, meep.
Imagine if you could do this whole podcast, this audio podcast in thought bubbles. Wouldn't that be great?
I could do them in little thumb bubbles like this.
You do. Yes. Playing with technology. We all have, let's see if I can, no, nothing. Why does yours do it? Mine doesn't. I don't know. Welcome to the Messing Around with Max on an audio podcast. This is magic. This is the magic you get on the Stacking Benjamin Show. Speaking of magic, we actually do some great magic. Doug Tsoi contemplates those big questions because, as you know, OG, getting your money straight, just really the first step. Getting the rest of it straight without getting paralyzed because of legacy and big thoughts. Like, how do you get all that done? How do you make optimize having more, whatever more is in life? We'll talk about that with Douglas Tsoi, who loves that topic. But before that, we got a big headline: financial planners stealing. Really? No, not financial planners, actually. Asset managers stealing. We'll talk about that and maybe how the investors in this might have protected themselves. But before that, we have some sponsors who make sure that this show stays free for you. And the cool thing is, they're all in only the first half of the show. Second half of the show is always ad-free. But for now, let's celebrate the sponsors that help us bring this to you. In business, there is no room for guesswork. Every shipment matters. Every deadline counts. And when you're trying to keep operations running smoothly, the last thing you need is uncertainty. That's why reliability is at the core of USPS Ground Advantage. From the moment your package is first scanned in, it moves through a secure nationwide network, aiding in a timely and accurate delivery. You get near real-time tracking so you can keep up with your shipments. And with affordable upfront pricing, there are no hidden fees or surprise surcharges to throw off your cost sheets. It all adds up to predictable deliveries you can depend on, because knowing your logistics are handled lets you focus on everything else, your customers, your team, and the future you're building. Visit USPS.com/Ground Advantage to start shipping with confidence. USPS Ground Advantage. We mean business. I had a breakfast mentoring meeting yesterday with a young woman who was just amazing. She is graduating from college with a degree in wealth management, and she reached out hoping for some pointers. And listen, if somebody's in Texarkana and wants to go into this beautiful field of personal finance and helping people get their money together, that is incredible. But even more incredible is how she reached out, how she was trying to network. And I was having a discussion that finding the right person and avoiding the wrong person for a role, that's what can make or break an organization. And we just don't see that many qualified people. So how do you find them? Well, Indeed Sponsored Jobs is a boost whenever you need to find quality talent. If you're hiring, Indeed is all you need. You can stop struggling to get your job post even seen on other sites. You'll match with quality candidates with Indeed's Sponsored Jobs. Get matched with and hire quality candidates who can drive the results you need. Reach candidates who meet your specific criteria like skills, certifications, or location. It drives me crazy when I'm matched with all kinds of people who aren't a fit. I don't have that kind of time. People are finding quality hires on Indeed right now. In the minute I've been talking to you, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. Sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed are 95% more likely to report a hire than non-sponsored jobs. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all the boxes. Less stress, less time, more results. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is a job for Indeed Sponsored Job. And here's what's cool, stackers. You're going to get $75 in sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support Stacking Benjamins by saying you heard about Indeed right here at Stacking Benjamins. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, do it the right way with Indeed. Doug Tsoi waiting upstairs with mom. So let's get to the headline.
Hello, darlings. And now it's time for your favorite part of the show, our Stacking Benjamins headlines.
Our headline today comes to us from investmentnews.com.
There it came out.
Get it out, man. People that don't know behind the scenes, Doug's been waiting to burp for like, I don't know,
an eternity
since before we started the show. And of course, we make sure and capture that goodness for eternity. This is written by Bruce Kelly, and the headline, prosecutor, by the way, anything in investment news that starts off with the word prosecutor, I'm all about that headline.
You're rubbing your hands together. Ooh, it's about to get good.
Here comes some gold. Somebody's going down. Prosecutor claims GPB was, quote, built on lies. In a standing room only courtroom in downtown Brooklyn a couple weeks ago, the fraud and conspiracy trial of two top executives of GPB Capital Holdings began with federal prosecutors claiming the private investment manager, which has not paid investors dividends since trouble surfaced in 2018, was built on lies. So here's what we got, OG. We got interest rates next to zero. This firm comes along and says, hey, you give us money. And the goal here is we're going to get you 8% consistently. We're going to
cut from the same cloth as Bernie Madoff.
And here's how we do it.
8% every year, like clockwork.
Yeah. Led by CEO and founder David Gentile and broker-dealer chief Jeffrey Schneider, GPB first started ringing alarm bells 6 years ago when it came to light. The company and its largest funds had failed to make timely required filings, including audited financial statements with the Securities and Exchange Commission. So to cover up their tracks, OG, they had to, of course, give investors money from their own account. They took money to kind of spike up the yield. So it looked like 8% because what they didn't want to tell people was that, and this is all allegedly, obviously, that the returns weren't what they had hoped for. Shocking. What first would have raised your, you always use the term spidey sense. I mean, they're putting money in, you're getting a consistent return, 8%. I mean, so far sounds pretty good.
The first thing that you said that I just kind of shook my head at a little bit was, and I don't remember the exact quote, but it was something along the lines of, we were looking to create a product that could deliver yield when the interest rate market was not so great. And I see this on Reddit a lot. There's a whole group of people that are focused on, I think there might be even a thread called dividends or dividend investors or something like that. And don't get me wrong, getting cash dividends is great, but you have to look at it for what it really is. What is a cash dividend? A cash dividend is a profit distribution to the company, right? Companies can't issue dividends unless they have profits, generally speaking, or retained earnings if they maybe have a bad year and they've saved some. Basically, to pay out cash bonuses to investors, you have to have profit. And there's two ways that companies can spend profit. They can spend it by rewarding shareholders, giving them cash, or they can invest it in the company. They can invest in a couple of different ways by buying back their own stock. Somewhat controversial sometimes, but that's a way to do it. But largely, they spend the money on reinvesting in the company to drive more profits. And in the publicly traded market, when you drive higher profits, generally speaking, your share price is rewarded with that. So if you have an investment that is like going, we pay 10% dividends, I'm going, hold on a second. Why? Are you out of ideas? Is your management team like stuck? Like you're like, well, this is all the ice cream flavors we could come up with. So this is it. We're at peak ice cream right now. Like this is all there is, so we got to take, there's no more,
but
no
boss,
more better ways to do
31. It. We can't do another
exactly.
one.
So if you've run a company, been in a company, owned a company, worked for a company, are your profits the same every year?
Going to be all over the place.
Yeah, I mean, you have good years, you have some not so good years, you have great years, you have really crappy years. So how in the heck can an investor say, I figured out how to deliver a consistent return to you and have that number be, higher than basically cash or money market rates? It just can't happen. There's just not that tool out there. If guaranteed products delivered 8%, stocks would have to deliver 16. Because no rational investor would take the ups and downs of the stock market for an average of 8 and all the variability that comes with that. 1 year, you're down 50% in 2008. You can have these really crappy years to average 8%. If the world, the universe provides a guaranteed product at 8, you wouldn't take the volatility of, the market. So the volatility of the market would have to deliver a higher expected return if the universe provided an 8% guarantee. So there's a lot here that just, you go, this sounds too good to be true. This is all one, all boils down to that statement. There's no way that somebody can have an 8% guaranteed return every year over time.
They talk in this piece, and I didn't get this far yet, about how they're going to come up with profits. They had a very specific focus that they thought that this 8% dividend was going to come from car dealerships, trash and waste businesses, and then would target a steady 8% annual return. So when you look at any business, a car dealership, do they have up and down years? Trash and waste business, I don't know if they have up and down years or not, but I would assume like any company, you're going to have up and down years. So how you're going to invest in these things and come up with a steady 8% in a market, to your point, where interest rates are nearly zero, and so 8% looks phenomenal. You got a bunch right there. And frankly, when we get into this idea of returns and pieces of the market, people might even say, just giving people the benefit of the doubt. Okay, the last 8, 9, 10 years, if you were in large company stocks, that's been the place to be, OG. In fact, it's kind of the worst time ever right now to look at diversification. We've brought this up a few times this year because one asset class has seemed to rule them all for so long that younger investors get lulled into this trap. I've had 3 conversations.
What's a guy got to do to get the small cap market to do okay for a period of time?
Right. I mean, I've had this conversation with 3 younger investors this year. They're like, I don't get in investing in international. I don't understand it. There's no reason to do it. Why the hell would I do it? Because that asset class never performed. So what I did was just went back to a period that you and I have talked about, that era, 2005, 2006, 2007, 2008. Listen to this. International stocks in 2005, 14%. Large company US stocks, 4.9%. Okay, the following year, large company stocks did 15.8 in 2006, but international did 26.9. The following year, large cap had a crappy year in 2007, 5.5. Of course, we're starting to get some rumblings about real estate at that point, right? Real estate down 15%, a harbinger of things to come. International, 11.6. And this trend, this idea that international sucks all the time. I'm looking at 2005 to 2018. I've got several years in here now. Again, to these young people's point, none lately, but thinking that right now is what's going on in the market, and that, okay, waste businesses and car dealerships are going to be the place where I get a steady 8%.
Joe, I got a question about international investing. Are those, when you look at an article like that and those returns, are they largely based on more established companies in BRIC countries? Or is it super diverse, like startups in, Romania?
No, I'm glad that you said that, because there's a separate line for emerging markets. OG, how has emerging markets been doing?
Let's see here. Didn't you say earlier you wanted to have it be a thought bubble, the show of a thought bubble? So ask the question again. Let me see if I can have my thought bubble.
How about emerging markets over the past 10, 15 years, OG? 2017, 37.8%. Couple that with 2015 at negative 14.6, 2018, negative 14.3, negative 2 in 2013, negative 1, 2014. I mean, we've had some horrible years.
But there have been some pretty good years, an occasional spike. And I just happen to remember this from the election cycle before last, so 2016. The time period, if you look at it year to year, is really interesting, but there's periods of time within there where that underperformance is wiped out in a short period of time. Small companies, for an example, I've talked about this before, in the 5 years ending October 31st, 2016, small companies underperformed large companies on average and cumulatively over that 5-year period. From November 1st through Christmas, all of that underperformance was washed away. And now, for the 5 years ending Christmas of 2016, small companies outperformed large companies in 5 years.
Was that because there were just a couple of companies that just killed it and they were overweighted in that index, or what happened?
No, because the Russell 2000 has 1,830 positions. What happened was there was a presidential election that went a direction that people didn't think was going to happen, and it changed the viewpoint of industry based on the results of the election in that short period of time. We obviously, over long periods of time, kind of all is in the wash. But if you would have said, if you would have met with your advisor, if you would have done your rebalancing on Halloween and gone, you know what, I've done this for 5 years, 5 freaking years. I've gotten my face kicked in. I put 20% in small cap, be nice and diversified. It's so dumb. I'm just going to go large US tech. It's 6 weeks later, that allocation of 20% of your small companies would have beaten the 5-year return of your 80% of large companies in just 6 weeks or 8 weeks. The thing is about diversification, the best part about it is that you get all the returns of all the stocks. You just get them in an order that you can't predict.
And the reason why people got duped was, I think, the theme here, OG. If you're looking for stability, you're asking in the equity markets, if you're asking for stability, you're going to get duped.
Well, and the fact that you said I'm investing in car dealerships and waste management companies, I'm like, all right, this is even dumber of an idea.
It invokes a visual that OG just brought up, which is you're going to get your face kicked in.
Yeah. I want to go back, Doug, to your original question, though, about international versus emerging markets, which I think is an important distinction. Going back to 2005, we got through that the last 10 years has not been that kind to emerging markets, although there's pieces of it, OG, to your point, where, man, the spike is huge and you just don't know when it's going to happen. 2005, I mentioned large caps did large company US stock, 4.9%, international 14. Emerging markets, these smaller company stocks, Doug, 34.5%. Top asset class in 2005. 2006, not much worse, 32.6. If you were in international, you only did 26.9. If you were in large companies, you did 15. The following year, emerging markets, 39.8. International, only 11, and large companies, 5.5. So, yeah, big difference between, just like in the US, right? Big difference between small companies in the US and large companies in the US. Same thing for international. Large established companies internationally have good years, and then emerging markets, a whole separate, even nastier and better roller coaster. By the way, emerging markets followed up that beautiful 2007 at 39.8 to return negative 53.2 in 2008. So while the whole world was getting its face kicked in, emerging markets got it kicked in the most. But this is the nature, OG, of volatility, right? What goes up the fastest, the roller coaster with the biggest hill, is also going to drop the furthest.
Well, I mean, look at the COVID 17 trading days where the market was down 30% in 17 days. It's like, okay, that is pretty crazy. You know, that rubber band got pulled back pretty quick, and it makes sense that the rebound was just as quick. Now, that doesn't mean that, you know, you didn't feel concerned about it. It doesn't mean that on March 23rd, you weren't like, well, maybe we go down another 20% from here. Who knows? Right. Because there's a lot of unknowns the third week of March around the economy and the market and COVID and impact and all that sort of stuff. But in retrospect, you can see the world's smartest people were trying to solve this problem. And more specifically around the companies that you own companies that are run by the smartest people in the world. That's their job, is to run Coca-Cola and Apple and NVIDIA and, you know, all these companies that you heard of that you do business with every day. They're governed by a group of people who also make sure that they're doing their job. So there's a lot of checks and balances. And that doesn't mean that they're always going to do great all the time, but you know that they're trying. That's their sole focus. The folks at Disney are trying to make sure people go to the parks, and they're trying to make really good movies. That's all they're focused on all the time, every day. And their incentives, their pay, largely is determined by the results of the overall organization. So they're incentivized to do it. And so when the economy takes a crap and you go, oh, well, the market. No. The folks at Disney didn't just go like, well, I guess we just shut it down. I guess everybody, right? We just wrap it up. We're done.
We had a good
We're
run.
done.
Swing and a miss.
Yeah, they got in a Zoom call and they went, what do we do? Guys, let's talk about it. Let's brainstorm ideas. And they took their best ideas and said, how do we get people to feel comfortable going to Disney again? Because we need to freaking make money. And the same thing is true about every company in every environment that happens. You know, people talk about the upcoming election and they'll say things like, well, if such a person wins, then this is going to happen. This person wins. Look, there's definitely policy decisions and policy directions depending on which side wins the election and which side is, you know, in Congress and that sort of thing. There's no doubt about that. But make no mistake about it, the people who are impacted, the organizations and companies and industries that might be impacted positively or negatively by either any of those, you know, directions, they've got contingency plans on the wall. Just like you should have a contingency plan on your shelf of like, what happens if I get hit by a bus, or what happens if I lose my job, or you know, all these different things. They've already got that stuff. If this person gets elected, we know that the direction of the oil and gas business is this way. Thus, we are going to do these things in order to continue to make money. The interests are so perfectly aligned that I think if you recognize that you're investing in companies that are run by people who have really strong incentives to be profitable over long periods of time, I think that takes the edge off of it quite a bit and say, I'm investing in these companies. I'm an investor in these organizations that are trying to do really, really the best that they can, no matter the market circumstances, up, down, or sideways.
Let's throw some gasoline on this fire now.
I don't have any energy around this, so as you can tell.
Not at all. Oh no, we're going to really throw some gasoline because OG, that there are people out there walking the dog, whatever, going, you know what? I still think there's a way to do this. We can make a portfolio that delivers 8% a year, every year like clockwork. I know what it is. I'm going to add bonds to the portfolio. So here's what we'll do. We'll do a 60-40 mix. We'll do 60% safer stocks, and then we'll do 40% bonds. And that'll certainly give us this 8% stability, right? That these people that are being prosecuted for not doing what they said that they'll do. There's got to be a way to do this. Well, I went and looked at that too. Your favorite source, JP Morgan, who does a lot of this research, went and looked at how do the returns look year over year if you do that 60-40 portfolio, because that'll even it out, right? Start at 2003. I'm just going to list returns. 2003, 19%. 2004, 8%. 2005, 4%. 2006, 11%. 2007, 6%. 2008, negative 20%. 2009, 18, and then we go 12, 4, 11, 19, 11, 1, 8, 15, negative 3, and so on. This is crazy.
Those are the returns for a sample portfolio that was 60-40.
60-40. We put 40% of it in bonds to try to even it out. There's
Put
no
some oil
even
on the
at
water.
all. I know.
Wow.
We still didn't do it, OG. We still didn't create this consistent 8%.
No, and all that happens is you're taking the opportunity for inflation-adjusted returns and cutting it down by 70%. You can't have guaranteed outcomes and high expected returns. Those things can't live in the same universe, ever. So anytime you look at your savings account and it's paying 4.5%, that's a guaranteed return, right? You don't have to do anything. You know for certain that the U.S. government is going to make sure that Ally Bank is going to freaking have your account and it's going to pay you the money that they owe you, guaranteed every time. And so if all of a sudden you say, well, I'm going to add some return to that, but if you don't think that there's added risk, or said another way, added ups and downs, the bumpiness, which is what people for some reason want to try to avoid, the bumpiness is what gets you the return. That's the only way you get those returns. I mean, it's such a fundamental concept. You can't have high expected returns without the ups and downs, because that's what the difference is between cash returns of 4.5% today and an equity returns of 10. It's the ups and downs.
I think this comes down to, if you're surrounding yourself with people that are telling you what you want to hear, I will give you 8% non-volatile. You might end up being played. But if you surround yourself with people that help you analyze strategies, look at the predicted volatility and the volatility you'll have to endure, so you know ahead of time where this roller coaster is headed, and then you agree that, yeah, this is the path, I think it's a much better way to go. You know, we don't like change, but that's all that there is in financial markets, is change all the time. I will make sure that Kevin Bailey, who writes our wonderful 201 newsletter, dives into this more tomorrow. So if you're interested, not only in this piece, which we'll have in the show notes, but also in this idea of how do we put together a better portfolio, we will have more of that in tomorrow's newsletter, stackingbenjamins.com/201. To get that, it's always free and comes out every Tuesday and Thursday that we make the podcast. Coming up next, we've had captains of industry, people that have advised presidents on this show. We have had people talking about how to make more money and build. Douglas Tsoi took a different path during his career. He lived on less than $20,000. At age 42, he, quote, retired. Although if you know anything about our mentor today, he didn't at all retire. He just really did a big pivot. We're going to talk about that. What he's explored in his last 10 years is all the things not about money that really make a successful, quote, retirement. What's that all about? How do you have these bigger conversations without freaking yourself out? Well, he's our mentor today, Douglas Tsoi. But our mentor every Monday, Wednesday, Friday on the trivia is Doug. And Doug, I've seen you busy working in the wood shop next door. What's going on?
The wood shop, more like the car shop. Hey there, stackers. I'm Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug, and it's racing season. I love NASCAR and Formula One as much as the next guy, but there's some real down-home racing happening right here in our own backyard. Texarkana's annual Pinewood Derby race is coming up this weekend, and that's why I'm out there late at night. I don't want to jinx it, but I have a pretty strong feeling I'm going to win this one. Would have won last year, too, if someone had ratted me out for being an adult. People trying to sabotage me. It's a sad world. What's this come to? I know exactly who told, too. It was Brett. Brett lives in a rival cul-de-sac across town. I sat and watched and saw him whisper something to his mom, and next thing I know, being escorted out of the middle school gym. But that was last year. I worked really hard on my car this year, so I'm entering the race under a pseudonym. Instead of Joe's mom's neighbor Doug, I'm submitting my car under Joe's mom's neighbor Doug's young nephew.
Oh, perfect.
Can't see through that. Then, after my fake nephew inevitably wins, I'll tell him that he's sick and I have to accept the award on his behalf. It's foolproof, really. Flawless. So let's talk racing with today's trivia question. While I'm about to win a big, fat trophy with a PH, in the world's most iconic racing series, Formula One, drivers also score millions of Benjamins, probably the next stop in my career. So let's talk about the most famous driver in that series and one of the most iconic teams in the event. What iconic car brand and racing team will the legendary Lewis Hamilton be driving for in next year's Formula One? I'll be back after I finish sanding my wood.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy. Just drop in some details about yourself and see if you're eligible to save money when you bundle your home and auto policies. The process only takes minutes, and it could mean hundreds more in your pocket. Visit Progressive.com after this episode to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states.
What would you do if your online store converted 36% more shoppers? You could take 36% more vacation.
Another pina colada? Yes, please.
Open a new retail location with 36% more square feet.
Fantastic.
Hire 36% more help.
You're hired and you're hired.
Shopify has the world's best converting checkout, up to 36% better than other e-commerce platforms. What you do with those extra sales is up to you. Switch to Shopify today at shopify.com/listen and get a $1 trial. Shopify.com/listen.
Did you know Fast Growing Trees is America's largest and most trusted online nursery with thousands of trees and plants and over 2 million happy customers? Whether you're planting fruit trees, adding privacy, brightening things up with flowers, or bringing in houseplants, Fast Growing Trees has it all. Even better, they can help you find options that are right for your climate, your space, and lifestyle. Click Order Grow. Every plant arrives healthy with the Alive and Thrive guarantee straight to your door. So if you're ready to get planting, this is the moment. Right now, they have great deals on spring planting essentials, up to half off on select plants. And listeners to our show get 20% off their first purchase when using the code WWO at checkout. That's an additional 20% off. Better plants and better growing at fastgrowingtrees.com using the code WWO at checkout. Fastgrowingtrees.com, code WWO. Now's the perfect time to plant. Let's grow together. Use WWO to save today. Offer is valid for a limited time. Terms and conditions apply. Go to growingfasttrees.com for details.
Hey there, stackers. I'm proud uncle and Brett's worst nightmare, Joe's mom's neighbor Doug. After I got my newly created nephew Tyrone's TikTok up and running, I went ahead and set up some accounts on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube, just in case the judges start poking all over the internet. He's even on LinkedIn. I made him out to be a child genius who already works as an entry-level engineer at Ford. I figure that'll help explain why his car is so much better than all the other kids. Today's trivia question is, what iconic car brand and racing team will Lewis Hamilton be driving for in the next Formula One season? The answer? In a deal worth reportedly over $100 million, the world's winningest race car driver is going to move from Mercedes, where he spent his entire career, to an even more iconic brand. Known for screaming, "I'm rich and I'm having a midlife crisis," it's none other than Ferrari that has paired with the winningest F1 driver for next year's season. And now, here to help you contemplate life beyond the race to financial independence, it's today's mentor, Douglas Tsoi.
Oh, and I'm happy to finally get to meet this guy who we've heard on our sister show, Earn and Invest, a couple times. Douglas Tsoi's here. How are you, man?
Good to meet you, Joe. I'm doing well this morning.
Well, great to meet you. I'm super, super happy you could join us. Mom was even more excited than normal to meet somebody. So you must have impressed the hell out of her. Hey, let's start off with, Doug's trivia was about Formula One racing and about the Pinewood Derby. Were you a Cub Scouts kid? Did you do the Pinewood Derby?
I did both. Yeah, I was a Bobcat, I believe, and I did the Pinewood Derby. I'm not sure my vehicle moved further than 10 feet, though.
I remember, so I was in Detroit, which of course, Motor City, right? And a lot of the dads that I was competing against, they were engineers. And so I sat my son, Nick, down, Douglas, and I said, okay, let's set reasonable expectations, right? And I said, I know a lot of what we're going to talk about today is really what to expect and beyond the money of financial independence. But I said, okay, what do most of your friends' dads do? He goes, what are you talking about? I said, where do they work? What do they do? He goes, well, they work at General Motors, Ford. I said, exactly. Where does your dad work? Well, you're a financial planner. Exactly. And we're building a car. So for us, what should our win be? And our win should be, we agreed that if it made it all the way down the track to the bottom, that we'd high five each other. Like that was it. And it was funny because the first race, this one car dude just killed us, just absolutely killed us. And our car, I think, finished like 4th out of 5. And you would have thought, Douglas, that we'd won the Super Bowl because Nick and I are just jumping up and down. The financial planner and his kid, their thing made it. But, for a lot of people, the Super Bowl is this idea of financial independence. We talk a lot about making more money. I'm always intrigued when I meet people in our community that made it without that rubric of, hey, I got to make more money to get financial independence earlier. My understanding is you made at most $36,000 before you became financially independent.
More accurately, I averaged $36,000 a year for 20 years before I hit financial independence. So I had a number of careers. I worked as a corporate lawyer and I made $150,000 a year. I worked as a Quaker school teacher and made $12,000 a year. Worked in a nonprofit, made $60,000 a year. I was underemployed or unemployed for 4 of those years.
Wow. I mean, how did you do it then? Because everybody's wondering if you've got this up-down income, right? That's all over the place. How do you become financially independent in 20 years? What was your secret sauce?
Yeah, the short story of it is I graduated from college in 1994, and the first job I got out of college was at the Justice Department in Washington, D.C.
Cool.
And I made $25,000 a year, and I spent 15 of it. And I felt rich because in college I was really poor. I was an immigrant kid. Didn't have a lot of money, so I lived on $5,000 a year in college. And so that first year out of college, spending $15,000 a year was literally 3 times more than the year before. So I felt totally rich. And so I just decided right then and there that this was enough. And enough is a big word for the work I do now. I work as a spiritual director. So I decided financially, spiritually, environmentally, this was enough. And so for the next 20 years, I lived on about $20,000 to $25,000 a year and saved everything else.
Did you use a budget or did it just feel like enough?
I would put it this way. I knew the budget in my head. Later on, I would use things like Mint as sort of like fact checking myself.
Like a tracker thing, yeah.
Yeah, I had an internal sense of how much I wanted to spend. But basically, for all those years, I wanted to spend less than $1,000 a month on my credit card.
A lot of our stackers feel FOMO, though. When you live that type of life, there's got to be people doing more, doing things. Did you ever feel FOMO during that time?
Yes, and my story is that I came from a family of immigrants who lost everything to the communists in China. And so when you lose everything, and my parents' generation, they came with nothing. Whenever I got money, I wanted to save it and invest it because money was security for me. And so the most basic feeling I had was whenever I spent money, I was losing security. It's only since financial independence have I learned to slowly unravel that.
But still, I wonder if more of our Stacker family felt that way. Like every time you spend, you're making this decision. So for you, every expense you made was truly this decision. Is this worth giving away security?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it goes to, what a lot of people talk about money scripts, and those intergenerational beliefs that you get in childhood about what money is. It's either security or status or it's fun. Our feelings about money matter far more than the actual money. And the feeling I had was I was giving up security whenever I spent.
Let's dive into into the idea of feelings, because I think too many people treat financial independence like it's just a math problem, Douglas. And I know that from the back and forth you and I had, even setting up this interview, that you feel similarly. I want to read everybody something that you wrote me. Financial independence is an opportunity to look at our deeper selves. Carl Jung said that unless we bring the unconscious to consciousness, it will rule our lives and we'll call it fate. Tell me what you meant when you wrote that to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of our behaviors are underneath the surface. So I have a website called School of Financial Freedom, and I teach personal finance. And one of the things you learn is, I think there are two issues in America. Number one, not a lot of people know about personal finance, and it's not their fault, right? Like, we were not taught this in school. And there's just a huge hole in our education. And so most of us are operating without any education on this. But then there's a second thing, which is number two, even when we know what we have to do, are we willing to do it? And that becomes super hard too, right? Because all of a sudden we hit all those beliefs that we have that we're not really conscious of what money is. Until we bring those unconscious beliefs to light, we can't really do anything about our money.
What are some of those beliefs that you see time and again with students of yours that we need to bring to light, that we need to shine a flashlight on?
I'll give an example. Feelings drive behavior, right? And so much of our feelings are about like who we think we are or who we need to be accepted. I have a friend who, she just appeared on my podcast, actually. She's having her first kid and she's trying to calculate how much money she's going to need for to raise this kid and maybe future kids. How much will daycare cost, or if they have to go to private school, or save for college and all these things. And then she's a doctor serving low income families, and she realized, if you talk to Somali families or like Mexican families, any immigrant families, they're not paying attention to this at all, right? Like every kid is a blessing, and they're like having 5 to 7 kids, right? The finances don't matter because the point of life is to have the kids.
Yeah.
And so she realizes like, what is enough to raise a kid is not even a question for these low income immigrants. I don't know about you, but when I was a kid, everyone shared a room with their siblings. And now it's like a human rights violation if your kid has to share a room. Right?
I don't want my brother or my sister with me. Are you kidding me? I can't do that.
Right. So the rising expectations of America is a blessing. And, we cannot see how fortunate we are.
It's funny because what you're doing then is you're going through and you're questioning all the assumptions I think we make, Douglas, in our everyday existence.
Yeah. And I think, part of it is life is moving so fast and we don't have a strong sense of our own history that it becomes easy to say, well, our neighbors or the people we see on the internet have this. And so I should have this too. No one would say that out loud, but it's unbidden, right? And that's the unconsciousness of it. We believe the marketing we see all around us.
Yeah, I feel like social media just makes it even worse.
Absolutely. Social media is functionally mostly marketing of some sort. The most important thing about marketing, I read once that in order for someone to convince you to buy something, they have to let you know that you're not enough. And there's a tremendous amount of energy and human talent that goes around telling people that you're not enough.
It is funny. I feel like that's part of the financial independence journey, right? Like I'm not enough because I'm not financially independent yet. Like there's this drive. I was listening to somebody, Zeke Ziegler, actually, the old motivational speaker, Zeke Ziegler.
Yeah.
People that don't know Zeke Ziegler, go look this guy up. He died several years ago, but he always has these phrases. But one that is really good, Douglas, was it isn't the attainment of the goal that truly brings you joy. What brings you joy is the pursuit of the goal, just setting up the goal and having the joy that every day I get to wake up and pursue it. I think even maybe that reinterprets your vision, because instead of it being, I'm not enough, so I got to have this thing. Now you're in a place of gratitude. Now I get to wake up every day and I just get to pursue it. Like, how badass is that? It kind of changes your mindset.
Yeah, I think financial freedom, it's not only the math of it, but the path towards your financial independence is personal growth and empowerment itself, right? You feel so much more empowered about yourself when you're in control of your money and in control of your life.
I think you're also less likely to judge yourself if you f it up.
And like, as I'm sure you know, like when you f it up, you actually you have more cushion. Right. Like I've f***ed up many times. I had to foreclose on a house after 2009. I've made all sorts of financial mistakes, but when you have a cushion, it means less.
Yeah. Well, let's walk through this, because my next obvious question should be, well, where do I start? If I'm on this path to shine the light into the consciousness around not just financial independence, but what it means to me, you have 5 stages that you walk through with your students. Can we walk through those and what they are?
Yeah, I talk about these 5 stages. Well, the way I put it is, right, like if you accomplish financial independence, it's an amazing accomplishment. But as you're just saying, right, like the accomplishment doesn't make you happy. And I think that's the secret of it, right? Like the financial independence movement has its own marketing that makes you believe, well, if you don't have this, you're not enough. But once you get it, you'll totally be enough.
Way happy.
Right. I come from a spiritual background. It's just another sensation, right? The Buddhists say, like, you're always reaching for something, and then once you become acclimated to it, it won't make you happy anymore. And I think financial independence is the same. So I talk about these 5 stages of post-financial independence. The first stage is this, it's sort of like the 5 stages of grief. I talk about it as denial. There's so many people, like, they'll hit the number. The classic number for a financial independence movement is 25x, with X being the amount of money that you spend per year.
So the amount of money I spend right now, I multiply it by 25. I got that much money in the bank or at Fidelity or wherever the hell it is. Bam, that's your number.
Right. And that means you're, quote, financially independent. And, I know a number of people who have hit that number, but they don't want to leave their jobs. They don't actually want to stop working. They're typical excuses, but I like my job. And the super interesting thing is, we think about our jobs as things that we do for money, but our jobs give us so many other things. It gives us a sense of purpose. It gives us a structure to our day. It gives us a sense of identity, belonging, and status. And people don't, fundamentally, without knowing, they don't really want to give that up. And so they continue working, even though, like, the majority of people I know are incredibly stressed. Like, not like, oh, I'm stressed every once in a while, but chronically stressed. And that's because they've tied all these other things, purpose, identity, structure, to the fact that they have to work. You have to do some inner work to say, okay, I can get these things outside of this really stressful job. So then I get to stage 2. Stage 2 is
wait a minute. Hold on.
Hold
on, because I got a lot of questions about stage 1. I got a ton of questions. I'm thinking about some of the greatest creators in history and how they lived their whole life as this, quote, identity. Their identity was their work. It wasn't their job as much as it was who they are. I'm thinking about my spouse who's worked in the medical field. She had this doctor she worked with who I think he died when he was 98. And even at age 98, before he died, maybe 2 months before he died, he was still coming in to the office 2 days a week for half days. And he was sharp, Douglas. I mean, he was super sharp. He wasn't a guy who happened to be a pediatrician. His whole existence was, I am pediatrician.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a mistake? Or did the world get a better him because it was who he was? Like, is there a problem with wrapping your identity around this thing that you do?
I can't speak for that person. And, it's complex, right? There are people who feel firmly in their wheelhouse doing what they do. And it gives them all these things that we're talking about, purpose and identity and status. Being a pediatrician, you're serving the world. You have this incredible status. It's money. Like, And I'm not someone who would say that you shouldn't do it. And at the same time, how do I put this? I know a lot of people in a lot of prestigious jobs are doing it because they don't feel like they're enough.
Right.
I mean, Jordan, our mutual friend, talks about this really openly, right? Like the reason he became a doctor is because he felt like he had to be because his father died. He had to unwind all this deeper stuff to realize the deeper reasons why he became a doctor. And he was continuing to be a doctor.
It's funny because by the way, when Douglas says, Jordan, that's Doc G over Earn and Invest, I think about it both ways. Like I've known people, Douglas, on either side of this, and I'm trying to think of what the mistake is. And maybe I found it, which is what you said earlier about that idea of all that stress. And frankly, this concept of enough, that if Dr. Dorsey was his name, if Dr. Dorsey felt like he was enough and he just enjoyed showing up every day and it didn't cause stress, well, then he's probably on the right path. But if he's doing it every day and it's stressful as all get out and he just doesn't want to examine what other possibilities might be that might at the very least alleviate some of that stress. I mean, it seems to me that stress, because you brought it up right away, might be a big indicator of whether you're on the right path or not.
Yeah, but so my first job was a lawyer, really stressful job, and I was not good at it. And I got fired. And I want to make 2 points on this. Number one, like I've learned that failure is like, and I'm sure you probably have too, failure is one of the most beautiful things in the world, right? It's realigning because then you get to find out what are you really about when success is gone. It's super easy to keep on going when you're successful. In fact, I have a lot of law school friends 25 years later. Like I was not happy as a lawyer, and I suspect when I look at them, they're not happy as lawyers either. But because they were successful, they're still lawyers.
That's funny. The damnation is that they're good at it.
Yes. And the second thing is like when you are on the track, even if you like it, you're good at it, you don't have space to actually look up. And I think that's the other amazing thing about getting fired or failing is you get to look up and you get to reevaluate. And most people don't have that opportunity when they have to work for a living.
I think about when I got fired. And by the way, at the time, it didn't seem beautiful.
No, it's the worst.
But today, looking in the rearview mirror, that made me stronger, better, more accepting of myself. Like so many great things came from that I would not have done it differently. Like I'm like, that was, I learned so many lessons in such a short time from that experience. What's the second step?
Just really quickly, I call it dark grace, right? Like, the things that would be the best for us and the healthiest for us are the things sometimes we avoid the most. And dark grace sometimes has to happen to us.
I was doing that with exercise this morning. Best thing for me. Didn't want to do it.
So phase number 2 of this 5-stage process that I think of is what I call the party phase. Like you realize you're financially independent and then you start like imagining all the fun things you'll do. I have some students that have already hit financial independence and they moved to Spain. And they live this great life in Spain where they go out and go to the beach in the mornings and they golf in the afternoon and they've picked up new hobbies. Like they started writing novels and there's a performative aspect to it, right? Like you're sharing with everyone on Facebook all the cool things you're doing. You're going on vacations with like your loved ones and your friends and you want everyone to know you're partying.
Yeah.
Which is great. You know, I think, everyone I know that's done financial independence has gone through that phase, but at some point you can only party for so long.
Well, I'm just thinking I'm seeing phase 3 coming. I think phase 2 may allude to phase 3. I don't know what phase 3 is, everybody, but I'm thinking because just from my years of financial planning, I never didn't see your second phase, Douglas. I always saw the hey, I get to, name the thing. I get to travel. I get to play golf every day. I get to read. I get to garden. I get to do whatever. And you're like, pinch me. This is phenomenal. But on average, and it's funny because there's been research about phase 2, a guy named Ken Dykewald and a woman named Gail Sheehy have done some of these longevity studies and retirement studies. And Ken Dykewald said that phase 2 of yours lasts approximately 18 months on average.
Oh, that's so funny because that's like what they talk about of like when you fall in love with someone, right? That infatuation phase lasts about 18 months.
About 18 months. Isn't that funny? Yeah.
And then the endorphins have to go down.
That's
right?
exactly
Because
what I
you
was
cannot,
thinking, Douglas. There's got to be a chemical thing that's an 18-month
yeah,
chemical deal. Yeah.
yeah. The endorphins have to go down, and then you return back to a normal state, and that's why like nothing makes you permanently happy.
Well, so what's phase 3 then?
I'm curious what you thought phase 3 was, but my phase 3 is what I call the identity phase or the purpose phase. I'm going to like do the thing that I'm really supposed to do.
Yeah.
For a lot of people in financial independence, they start a podcast or they start writing or they start teaching, right? All this stuff. And it's super empowering, right? Because then you can claim all the benefits of like all the hard work you did for the decades before. And you get to see yourself as this thing and help other people. And it's really wonderful to like be in service to others.
You took the renewal side of it. I actually took the front edge of that, which was the is this it phase. Because I think the front edge of what you're talking about is you wake up one day in party phase and go, is this it? Is this truly all there is? And there's this pit that client after client told me they went through of, wait a minute, there's got to be more. And then to your point, then this fulfilling role of becoming teacher, of becoming master instead of grasshopper starts to bloom. And really, it sounds like, to your point, there's this blooming.
Yeah, it's funny because I think that I actually, in my notes, on stage 4 is called "Is This It?"
Oh,
but,
that's funny.
Yeah, so all of this is iterative, right? Like,
sure,
we think of it as 5 steps, and you go, but like these things go in cycles. So
yeah,
nothing's like fully as clear cut as we're making it out to be.
But I think that the danger in that phase 3, going back to the beginning of our conversation, I love what you said about enough. If you're in this third phase of I'm teaching other people, and you're doing it because you don't think you're enough.
Exactly.
The problem's going to keep
buttressing your ego.
Yeah.
Right. Like you still want to be seen as something, as successful.
Yeah.
Right. And now financial independence or becoming, a writer or whatever is the way you want to be seen as successful.
Well, what happens in this 4th stage of doubt?
Yeah. This 4th stage of doubt, and I think honestly, part of it is that you realize when you're compelled to work before financial independence, you just have to keep on going, right? Like you push through with the determination you do not have when you're post financial independence, right? Like any sort of obstacles, oh, I don't want to do this. I don't have to do this, right? Why am I doing this? And I think that's part of the beginning of phase 4, which I call "Is This It?" Doc G calls dysphoria. There's this depression of who am I really? I have all these things and somehow it's still not satisfying. I'll just tell a quick example of one of my clients. He grew up in India, rural village India, poor. And somehow, for some reason, he had a dream that one day he was going to go to America and start a company and become rich. When he went to America in his teens, he told me that when he was on the airplane, he went to the bathroom, he literally did not know what toilet paper was.
Wow.
And somehow he went to Silicon Valley, started up a company, sold it, had an exit event, and is worth some X millions of dollars. I don't know how much. And he has everything he ever wanted as a kid. You hear these stories of people in Hollywood or anyone who's become rich. You hit a point where it's oh, I've done everything I thought I ever wanted as a kid. And maybe that's the key phrase, as a kid, right? Developmentally, we've achieved the things that we wanted when we were immature. And then we ask ourselves, what next? And I think that's the really interesting point of all of this story. What happens when I've achieved everything that I've ever wanted and it's still not making me happy?
Well, and I love the second half of that you dropped there, which is the immaturity of those goals. I wanted those when I was a kid. And to your point, I think we changed. We're this ever evolving being. And just because I achieve what I used to want doesn't define me today. I'm at a different point than I was then. I mean, at one point I wanted to be either a firefighter, the president, or the milkman,
Amazing.
One of the 3.
Well, I mean, to go back to Carl Jung, who you mentioned in the very beginning, Carl Jung popularized this idea that we have 2 halves of our lives. The first half of our lives, we build ourselves up. We achieve things, we create things around us, we build security. And then not everyone does this developmentally. If we get to the stage, he called it the night sea journey, this journey through darkness, which I think is basically the stage 4 of depression. And most of us want to avoid the depression. And Carl Jung says, no, we have to move into it. And that's what happens in stage 5. A lot of people, like I know this other entrepreneur in Silicon Valley, made a couple $100 million in a startup age 30, and he buys his house in Maui, and he thinks, I'm set for life. I live in Maui in this like $10 million house. And when the dysphoria sets in, because he's just sitting there doing nothing on Maui all alone, he goes back to Silicon Valley. And I think that's the danger of stage 5. Like, you can just go back to doing stuff. But, the second half journey, and maybe it was just too early for him because he was 30 years old. Second half journey is like, you realize, I spent all my life doing, and I haven't figured out who I am if I'm not doing anything.
Which I think then is the ultimate acceptance, right? That I'm okay just being. Instead of doing, I'm being.
Yeah.
Which is a hard place to be. And also it reminds me of, my co-host OG, one of his favorite phrases, the only way is through. Like when you feel this stuff, instead of trying to avoid it, shut it down, the only true way to get there is through.
Yeah. I mean, Blaise Pascal, who was this French philosopher in the 1600s, he talked about all the problems of mankind stem from the inability of man to sit in his room, sitting quietly, doing his room, doing nothing. We constantly have to be moving because we have a basic discomfort about life. There's something that we find really like uncomfortable about ourselves or about life if we just sat quietly and paid attention. And the only way out is through.
It's through. It's funny, a book that was formative for me. This is a really old book, everybody, but I always felt like I had to be in a relationship. I always had a girlfriend, Douglas. I always had some relationship, either a good relationship or a bad relationship, but there always was one. It was almost like the movie Jerry Maguire. Jerry can't be alone, if people remember that from that movie. I read this book by a guy named Richard Bach called Bridge Across Forever. And in Bridge Across Forever, he realizes that you can't be in a relationship with somebody else fully unless you're okay with you. If you're not 100% okay with you, how are you going to bring anything to that? It is very difficult, but you got to be okay with you first. And then you begin to realize that unless this relationship is perfect, it's better to be with you. It's better to be alone. Like people are like, I don't want to be alone. Well, no, it's actually better to be alone, figuring out what you want. And if you're not, then I don't know. It was this big wake up call at that time for me. And I don't know, ever since then, I kind of view, I'm not perfect at this, but I struggle with it every day. I got to ask too, you must have struggled with these 5 yourself in the 10 years since you were financially independent.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I didn't read this somewhere.
I'm going to start preaching this. Oh, I don't have to live this.
The way I understand it is money only solves money problems, which is surface level. But, underneath even our money problem is this undercurrent of discontent, right? Like not enoughness. And I believe, our not enoughness, whether it's overconsumption or overwork, are just ways of distracting ourselves. Like we don't want to actually understand our not enoughness that comes from inside. And I think the real prize of financial independence is not the only way to get there, is creating enough time, to actually see it and walk with it.
Everyone can find you at your podcast, which is also called The School of Financial Freedom. I'm going to mention the podcast because, podcast listeners love getting more podcasts. And Douglas, in preparation, I listened to some, I dove into some of your recent stuff, and you have these conversations on the podcast.
Yeah. The School of Financial Freedom podcast is a supportive recording of my course, Financial Freedom, which is where we talk about these issues. And it's a 2-month course where you work with other people on your financial plans. Substack called Money and Meaning, and that's at douglastsoi.substack.com. And my spiritual director website is just douglastsoi.com.
Awesome. And you know what? We'll link to the podcast. We'll link to the course. We'll link to the Substack on our show notes at stackingbenjamins.com. Douglas, great to get to know you. Finally, man, I feel like we're in each other's outer sphere all the time. I've seen your name all over, but it's finally great to be in the same place.
Yeah, well, I can't wait for the Formula One episode.
Absolutely. Well, we finally get those guys, but at least you and I got to talk Pinewood Derby, my friend. That's the, yes.
Yeah, thank you, Joe. I just feel sorry for the person who came in 5th place on that one.
Hey, this is Pete the Planner, USA Today money columnist and host of the Ask Pete the Planner podcast. When I'm not fixing the weirdest financial situations you've ever heard of, I'm stacking Benjamins.
Huge thanks to Doug for helping us look beyond the money, OG. That is nearly it for today. Time for a little short, what we call the back porch. I was thinking while we're away next week, we've got this Independence Day holiday coming up, guys. And I think there have been so many crazy Independence Day things that have happened in my family. I'm sure you guys have got to have some craziness. Of course, OG, you had, I think, was it a firework that your brother put in the trash can that burned your house down when you were a kid? That's not hilarious, but it certainly is a story.
No, it wasn't a firework.
It wasn't?
No.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I could turn it into a firework if you're out of story ideas. It was so long ago. Nobody can really fact check me.
We can make it whatever we want now.
Yeah.
I do have one that also the people can't fact check, but I don't think that I would bring this up if it wasn't true. Of course, a big sport in Michigan is to head up where neighbor Doug lives, northern Michigan, where things are absolutely beautiful. And when we had this pop-up camper, did your family have a pop-up camper?
No.
No, you guys didn't do camping?
No.
Not as a kid. You waited until you did government-sponsored camping.
My grandparents owned a farm, so we had all the outdoors time that we needed.
That was it. Yeah, my grandparents had a farm as well. And we would take the camper out there. But we went to St. Ignace State Park, very popular park at the bottom of the Upper Peninsula. And Doug, how far is that from your house?
It's probably an hour. It depends on the line at the bridge, but it's probably an hour and 35 minutes.
And on a 4th of July weekend, that park is packed.
Yeah. I can believe that.
Absolutely packed. And so we traded in that pop-up camper for a Winnebago. And Winnebago's, of course, all of the, Doug's giving me the, I know.
I didn't realize we were talking about that kind of money.
I know, that's a flex. That is a flex right there. We had the Winnie, I think. It was good. No, we had the Brave. And so there was all kinds of places to sleep, everything. Of course, we had a table that turned into the big bed. And then there was a bench where people could sit. And that bench turned into a place where my sister slept. My brother and I slept above where the driver compartment was. There was no window, in the front, but there was a window on the side. So there was a window on one side where our head was and a window on the other side. So we would put our sleeping bags up there. I would get in first and then my brother would get in and we'd, sleep happily ever after most nights. So this crowded state park campground, it is maybe 2:00 in the morning. I have had a horrible nightmare and I wake up from the nightmare and I open my eyes and all I see is a wall right in front of me. All I see is a wall. And then I try to move my arms and I don't even know where the hell I am because I just had a nightmare. I'm maybe 14. I try to move my arms. My arms are inside my sleeping bag and I can't move my arms because the sleeping bag is there. So I decide that I'm going to flip over. Well, I flip one side and now I'm staring at the ceiling, which if anybody's ever been in Winnebago, that ceiling is right there. I mean, this is a tiny compartment. So I go from wall, move my arms, can't move my arms, flip over, ceiling, can't move my arms. I am in a little tiny box. I can't freaking move. Joe flips out in the middle of 4th of July weekend. Oh my God, I'm trapped. Somebody help me. My brother tries to get me because I'm only half awake. My brother tries to shake me. He can't get me to stop. My brother goes, what do I do? And my dad goes, I don't know, help him. Like, what the hell are we going to do? The park rangers came over to make sure we were okay. The neighbors all came over to make sure we were okay. And I got a little bit of fame. I got my 15 minutes of fame as the kid that woke up the entire state park.
Now lore in St. Ignace, Michigan.
Remember that kid?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. That actually, most of that story sounds exactly like the MRI machine that I was in last night.
See, I don't ever want to do an MRI because I look at those machines and I'm like, I would be way too freaking out.
I've had a lot of MRIs. I mean, at least a dozen over the years.
I don't want to brag.
Scoreboard.
I mean, but that's right. I'm pretty experienced in the tube.
I'm getting good at these.
And I have had some where I was so relaxed I dozed off to sleep, and others where I'm not claustrophobic, And I started to get those feelings, started to creep into my brain a little bit. Like, I need to move. I want to move. Don't tell me I can't move. Now I need to move. It's like saying you can't go to the bathroom for the next 50 miles because, all of a sudden you've got to go to the bathroom. Same thing.
You're like, want to bet?
Right. Yeah, exactly. I got a Gatorade bottle right here. But I was dozing off a little bit last night and woke up, and the ceiling of that MRI tube it's right at your nose. I got a big nose, but it's right there. That's what I was thinking of as you were telling that story.
I would love to hear our stackers 4th of July, Independence Day holiday stories, because I'm sure that you have some. We'd love to share them in the back porch. Write me, Joe at stackingbenjamins.com, if you've got one. For now, we got one more story to tell, and that's the story of what you learned from today's episode. And Doug, you're going to bring it home for us. What should we have learned today?
That's my cue. Well, Joe, here's what's stacked up on our to-do list for today. First, take some advice from Douglas Tsoi. Financial independence, that's just the beginning. Exploring what's possible, well, that's a lifetime of fun. Second, 8% and steady returns. Mom always says it, so I'll repeat it. She says I'll repeat anything. I'll repeat anything. If it seems too good to be true. And then something after that, I don't know. God. Supposed to have a memory. So what's the biggest to do? Don't ever tell tens of thousands of podcast listeners about a brilliant scheme you've come up with, no matter how fair it is. It'll somehow get around to Brett's mom, and you do not want to cross her. Thanks to Douglas Tsoi for joining us today. You'll find Douglas's podcast, School of Financial Freedom, wherever you're listening to us now. Heck, just because I'm a giver, I'll also include links in our show notes at stackingbenjamins.com. And thanks to my nephew Tyrone for helping with today's show. Wink, wink. This kid is amazing. This show is the property of SB Podcasts, LLC, copyright 2024, and is created by Joe Saul-Sehy. Joe gets help from a few of our neighborhood friends. You'll find out about our awesome team at stackingbenjamins.com, along with the show notes and how you can find us on YouTube and all the usual social media spots. Come say hello. Oh yeah, and before I go, not only should you not take advice from these nerds, don't take advice from people you don't know. This show is for entertainment purposes only. Before making any financial decisions, speak with a real financial advisor. I'm Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug, and we'll see you next time back here at the Stacking Benjamin Show.
Do you guys find it stupid that coffee mugs generally are, 89% of the population is right-handed, and coffee mugs have the thing as you look at it, not just like bad. This is my Angel Flight mug, but to everyone else, it's just a plain old coffee mug on one side.
I know. Every time I want to show our logo on screen, I got to not have it by the thing.
That's funny you mentioned that, OG, because
look at this. Look at this.
Yeah.
Ta-da. When I picked this mug out of the cabinet today, I had to think, well, wait, if I hold this up, are people going to see do or purr? And they're not going to know what do, although do might be appropriate, apropos for our show. But purr, they're going to know, oh, neighbor Doug's a Boilermaker. We'll do the math, figure out what purr is. So this one, they kind of got
I'm going to know
right.
neighbor Doug likes to purr. I'm going to know neighbor Doug likes to purr.
All I saw was PU, and then I definitely knew it was Purdue.
Yes. Smell it from here.
You suck.
Is that West Lafayette that I smell?
You've never set foot there, and you crap.
I love the smell of West Lafayette in the morning.
I have set foot there. I was there for the greatest Michigan-Purdue football game of all time.
Oh, then we were there together.
Drew Brees got his you-know-what pushed right in.
Oh, that's not the game. We weren't there together because I was there for the comeback when we beat Michigan.
Yeah, that was not, no. This was the Ernie Shazor interception at the sideline.
Not the best one.
Breeze's game-winning drive.
Who cares? Who cares? I mean, come on, who cares? Does anybody care?
I don't care about that game.
I was there with my brother, as a matter of fact.
Care about the game I was at. Can I go? Can I do the intro?
No, we gotta belabor this.
Let's just skip it. Let's move on. What's the headline?
Skip no intro today.
Yeah, go home, Doug.
Okay. See ya.